We're going to talk about British culture, what it is exactly. And is it something that we have to protect at all means? Is it something that we can define? Is it something that we can point to in certain individuals, certain groups of people, and say that this is a good thing? Or even if it's not a good thing, something that is inherent in us. If you're born in the UK, live in the UK. I really want some interaction as well. Would love if we get over 100 people, 50, 60 at the same time to drop some comments in a message. I want this to be interactive. British culture. What does it mean to you? I mean, like literally, if we talk about the culture of British people, English more specifically, say. What is an English person like? What are the inherent qualities? What is it that they hold important? What is it that defines them as a people? If you want to use the word race, that's cool. But I don't even know if that's really appropriate. Please subscribe as well. The channel's growing. Every week or so we grab another 10 to 25 subs, which is awesome. We're very close to becoming monetized. With your help, we will get there. But as I said, the focus of this chat is British culture. What is culture even? Perhaps that's a discussion that's worth having. Regardless, thank you for listening to the LowTonepodcast. Jump in and chat. Give me some feedback. Let me know what you think. British culture can seem like kind of a nebulous thing, but I'd love to know what you think it means to you. What is a British person? And I'm talking about habits, thoughts, morals, and the culture surrounding that. Is British culture something that you can define from the people? Obviously, if you live, and I should have maybe perhaps said English culture. Born in England, live in England. But it's very interesting because politicians and people that try to start movements, they talk about preserving culture, but what is British culture? There are some thoughts I have, but I would love it if people would jump in the chat and your instant reaction to it is, don't forget to subscribe, obviously. We're close to being monetized, and I love my peoples, my family from LowTonepodcast. But instantly, how does that hit? If you try to describe British culture, what would it mean to you? A British man, what is this culture? What distinguishes him from a French person or an Italian person or a German person? What is defined? And is British culture something that you should fight to preserve? Or is it a free-flowing, nebulous thing? I think England has its flaws, but is a good country, man. Way better than a lot of other countries. But culture-wise, what is British culture? Once again, jump in the chat. Please subscribe. We are so dangerously close to getting monetized, and we've got a few advertisers coming in. Yo, Rasgel, you play still a brain rot. Brain rots, I understand. You play still a brain rot. Still, STILL, did you mean? Or still as in a steel drum, if I was a yardie man. Chad B, yo, what's up, my brother? Sub if you say 67. 67. Let me do it SARMI, whatever the term is. 67. Respect, Chad. We're talking about British culture. What distinguishes it? There you go, of course. I don't even know if you're taking a piss, brother, but I don't mind. I have such little care about social media or the potential for being punked. I'm 42 years old, something comes of age, and pretty much my entire family has passed away. So I think that gives you a sense of freedom in a way. But the subject is British culture. Can we define it clearly? And is it something we should fight for, try to preserve? Perhaps when we're faced by people from other nations say, no, this is British culture. We like it. It's good. It will be an overall positive benefit to the world. Again, don't forget to subscribe, but please jump in the chat. Don't just try and punk me. What is British culture to you? If you could distill it down in don't even have to be brief. It could be a huge message that you sent me. I will take the time to break it down and read it. Like I said, once we get cooking on the chats, most people that jump in are actually pretty cool. Some of them are a bit childish and want to play, but I've been quite lucky to get some cool, intelligent people to join the chat. It's actually been pretty fun. Some from England and some from America. We get a lot of Americans in. And they're pretty cool too. But yeah, British culture, to me, if we break it down, there's an old-fashioned idea of culture from Britain that stems, I'm 42, like I said, so born in 84, but from back in the day, the dude says, I am here, my dude. First of all, pretty sick name. Secondly, subscribe, the dude. Yo, Chad, B, and the dude. Where are you from? You from England? You from the UK? Because I get down pretty heavy with the Americans. Whenever I check my analytics, it's always like, goes up and down, but 60% England, and then a mix of the rest, always America, the second, and then Australia and UK. Not UK, sorry. Australia and India. So I'm assuming it's English as your first language type thing. The dude says, I'm from Azores Island, Portugal, living in the Alps. Damn, son. You live in the Alps of France? Well, then you deserve to call yourself the dude, you bad motherfucker. Well, perhaps because France is close. The Azores Island, I will have to Google to learn more. Though I do want a vacation in Portugal, first of all. Then the Alps when I become wealthy one day. And make sure you subscribe as well, the dude. But how do you view British culture? Like, say, English as well. I should have defined it as English because that's what I know. Scotland, Ireland do have a slight deviation of culture. They're cool, but it's a little bit more their own thing. For you as a person born in the Iberian Peninsula, maybe, like Portuguese, Spanish, your lineage might have a bit more of a mix than a standard Mediterranean, European type of look. But what's your opinion of British culture? When you think of like an English dude, what do you think immediately? I've got my thoughts, especially old-fashioned, like back in the day. To me, there's like an idea of an older professorial guy with a study with a library in his office at home. So this is including a bit more wealth. But the room smells like mahogany. He's got a bookshelf with a lot of really impressive books. He's read some. Oh, the dude has come back in. I must disturb to come back in. Hold on. I lived in the USA and Canada. From the UK, have a strong culture, and I love it. A lot in Portugal. But the migrants, it's out of control, as Portugal is. Yeah, migration, man, it's so tough. Because I agree, you have to have borders. I can't remember if it was FDR or... No, actually, I think it was one that says, if you don't have borders, you don't have a country. That is true. You have to have control over people coming in, especially as an island nation. It's not just about culture, it's just about keeping things moving, son. The things that underpin a nation, like medical services, education, you can't just have everybody rolling in. And then they talk about the difference of culture again, which we'll come back to, from people that come from different countries with different culture. So it's like messing up the flow of the nation. So I do get that. It's not a racist thing or a bad thing to say. Just for clarity, my politics are literally right down the middle, like centrist. I mean, my vote is up for grabs. If you make a good case about what you're going to do to improve your country, even if you're considered like sort of centre right or centre left, I will hear the case out and you could get my vote. It really is on the argument that you want to make. But that dude says, I love it a lot like Portugal, but migrants. And for anybody that's just jumped in, the dude, probably pretty wealthy, successful dude, lived on the islands just outside of Portugal, now lives in France, the mountainous Alps region. So I'm assuming instantly the dude, skiing, wealthy people, traveling, fucking hot ass blonde chicks whose daddies were rich. Ooh, Maron. What a fucking life, son. Don't forget to subscribe. Again, we're talking about distilling down and defining what British culture is. Literally, what is the soul, the inner thoughts of British people, how they conduct themselves in lives, what they give out as energy, how they see things morally, and is it something that we have to work to protect if you live in England, are an Englishman? There's like stereotypical views of people when we start to break down citizens of different countries. Everyone's got a slight difference in culture, a slight difference in, obviously, religion, country to country. That's just a geographical thing over time. So Protestant is England, Christian overall, but becoming more and more either agnostic or atheistic. Church attendance has been dropping in England, while in America recently, it seems to actually be having a resurgence. A lot more people are focusing on religion in America, which again does form part of the culture. But again, specifically England, there is a cool type, and again, I am fight the power, help the working class. I wish the labor societies were stronger and less corrupt, so we could just make sure that hard-working stiffs that have got a family that want to pay for their home, be able to afford a car and a couple of vacations a year, got a better deal. Because right now the working stiff is getting kind of a raw deal, son. And that's not exclusive to England. Anywhere that has manufacturing and factories. I assume the same is true in America as well. But then there's always two or three like different types of groups of people based on finances, wealth, based on education, their job, then inherently what they get through their parents. England, I would say there's two Englands. It's not as big as America, because America is like literally 3 or 4 different countries all in one country. Between the South, which I find very cool, the East Coast, like America, which again I find really cool. I think if you're not from America, you take in all the culture because America has the most dominant culture on people, from movies and music. You can either be a person that yearns to make your way to California, the West Coast, be a surfer, or I'm going to make it in Hollywood, or you love, gangster flicks, Martin Scorsese, Goodfellas, by the way, the most perfect 10 out of 10 film, never gets old, never ages out. I'm more of a New York person. I've been to New York about 4 or 5 times in my life. At my age now, 42, I don't know if I'd want to live there anymore. But as a young kid, looking at culture and being impressed by things, awed by things and wanting to move somewhere different, I was always more of an outsider looking at the East Coast. But in terms of the UK, like I said, it's really a couple of different countries. There is the more working class stiff, trying to get by, hardworking, stand his ground, is more resistant to changes and evolution, which of course, some are good, and then some are obnoxious and forced upon you. And then there are some in the UK that are constantly progressive, even while listening to the argument that's being given to you, being proposed. You accept the progressive, far, far, far left argument as rote because you think that's just a polite, good thing to do. There is a certain amount of the idea of politeness in England, which I think is a very good thing. I don't care about your politics. Just being polite, please, when you ask for something, thank you once you receive that thing. I think it's good for the soul of the person who receives it. And then they're more likely to conduct themselves in the same manner. I think it cools down hostility. And just generally, even if it's not people that are going to fight each other, if there's no violence being threatened, it's just a nice way to conduct yourself. Another thing in England, which that leads to, I'm sure it's the same in all nations, is you respect the elderly. We all have agreed that the elderly deserve a bit more protection. They deserve a bit more manners, a bit more. I mean, I've half a dozen times in my life, I've known someone in my local area. I've lived in a few different cities in England. If a woman is elderly and struggling with like 7 bags from a supermarket, you tell her, as long as it doesn't feel like aggressive to her or makes her nervous, then please, can I help you? You're, in my head, obviously, I would never say this, you're a badass bitch, but let me help you. I don't want you to hurt yourself. I walk her groceries to her house and then never ask to enter her house. Just bring it in, or do you want me to put it down somewhere? Or no, just put it on the threshold of the door. Thank you, you're a dear. That is English to me. But again, if you're American or Spanish or French, perhaps that's universal. One thing I really do like about England that we have, I know America has it for a little bit, and a lot of the cool countries in Europe that have the romantic languages, like France, Spain, Italy. This really educated, like professorial, like professors type people. In England, there's this weird type of dude. Again, I could probably see it, a different version of France, but that seems like so educated, very intelligent, but almost camp. Like when you hear them talk or the way they cross their legs, you think, oh, this dude's fucking gay, son. And he's usually a bit older. But then you find out, no, this dude is not gay. He knows Sartre, Nietzsche, back and forth. Has read all the works of all the classics, and you're like, you know what? This dude actually gets a fucking ton of pussy from young hot chicks because they're like in awe of his intelligence. That's something that feels like inherently a little bit English. But again, that comes down to your position financially in this life, which obviously is the same in every nation. There's an experience of the wealthy, and there's an experience of being brought up in a household of, hard-working, salt of the earth, nose to the grindstone type dudes. And I think they're both equally impressive, to be honest. A dude that can break down the philosophy of ancient Greeks and how it applies to the world today when you listen to a politician making the pitch, or one of these evil AI guys telling you why they're going to take over the world and everything will be fine. They're worth listening to. They're cool. They're disciplined, and they've taken the time to get for education and not fuck up, unlike me. But then there's the dude that does a job. If his car breaks down, he knows how to fix it. If something goes wrong in the house, he knows that he doesn't have to call anybody to come fix it. I'll fix it myself, get my toolbox. Damn, son. There's something inherently like masculine. That's how my pops was. My pops would very rarely have to call anybody to fix anything in the household. Gangster. But if he took an IQ test, he probably would come down pretty low. I don't think he even knew who George Orwell was or Oscar Wilde. But in many ways, he was just more intelligent than me. He built a garage next to the house by going around building sites and stealing bricks. And then even put in the automatic door opener. And this is like a little tiny house that he built with his own hands. And again, never read a lick of Shakespeare. Could barely read, this dude. Left education like 12. But it's impossible to say he was less intelligent than me. And impossible to say he was less of a man than me. He's a fucking little gangster. R.I.P. God bless you, Dad. Love you, Pops. But back to British culture. Football is our game, our national sport. If you are from America, which, as I said, many of my followers and my brothers that jump in the chat are usually American. Football to us, soccer to you. So that's something inherent to England. Not just, obviously, many European. Yo, can you hear me? I'm so sorry, it just cut out for a second. It was my connection. Please subscribe. Yeah, we're talking about British culture. So, there's some influence from the idea of the Romans when it comes to like architecture. We have certain, don't even qualify as cities, more like towns. There is like a literal definition of what constitutes a city. Some of it's based on population, and some of it is based on if you have, I know this sounds crazy, but if you have a cathedral in that area, if you have a cathedral, a certain amount of population, and there's one other criteria that officially makes it a city. So like say somewhere like Bath, B-A-T-H, Bath. It's a really beautiful little place. It's got the Roman cobblestones, and that is quintessentially British. For me, as a youngster, I was born like in a real white people ghetto. Shaved head, like I said, I was born in 84. There still were literal like skinheads when I was like 6 that hate black people and stuff. My parents are both from Cyprus. It's a little island that's the two closest countries to it are Lebanon and Israel. And then the other countries that are closest to it are Turkey and Syria, perhaps. And then to the south, Egypt. It's kind of like in the middle of the world. But I was born in England and feel very English. It's quite an interesting proposition, actually, feeling very English, facing a little bit of racism when I was young. But the city I was born in, even though that little area was very poor, like skinheadish, I was called definite slur Paki a lot, which is short for Pakistani, but ignorant people just use it for anywhere that looks a little bit dark. And I'm not even that dark, to be honest. But it was, for me, it wasn't actually like aggressive, terrible thing. Anyway, like, that said it to me is just, they're a little bit ignorant, but some of them are actually still homies, so cool with it. So Bath with the Roman influence. There's a couple other towns as well. There's a little town called Cheltenham. And again, the definition of a town versus a city is a strange thing in England, but it's the level of population. It's do you have a cathedral? So something that was built like in the 1800s in most cases. And then there's one of the criteria they honestly can't remember. You have to Google it. So these are some of the criteria we're talking about figuring out culture. Then music. That's another good one. More modern, more easy to get your hands around and actually distill. Something practical. Music. So what is the music of British culture? Well, predominantly, especially initially, for, if you're like me, born in 84, 42 years old, if you haven't done the math, rock. And then England make a particular type of music, whereas in America, at the same time, they were going through grunge. We came up with something called indie rock. Difference there is grunge was like, oh, I'm on heroin, duh, I'm literally filthy, I don't care, my long hair is greasy and stringy onto my head. And as in England, we took more of a like aggressive bro stance, like, you know, Liam Gallagher, hands behind his back, talking into the mic, fuck you, you can't, we can have a fist fight about this if you don't like my music. And before I go any further, again, please subscribe. I'm so close to monetization. Even a couple of local businesses, record shops, told me if I get a certain amount more, they'll start advertising, which would be a blessing. So culture, yeah, music, that is a good one as well. So what does that say? There's a certain amount of aggression, and then it helps to define a culture because of the beautiful creativity, whether you're working class. And in England, working class means you earn, let's say in English sterling pounds, say up to like 30, 40 grand a year, 40K, which in American conversion would be like, say, up to like, based on current currency conversion, about 50, 60K a year. So basically, if you got lucky with the farm and stuff and what's been brought down to you, probably for the house, maybe depending on the city you live in. Forget it in New York or LA, Chicago or Boston or the other richer areas of the world. But even if you have to rent or you've had a house brought back to you, you can afford a car, maybe even two if you've got like older share cars, and a vacation a year. If for the rest of the year, you literally are militant and disciplined and don't waste your cash. There is another thing about British culture. Again, I should have made it English culture because I was born in England, still live in England, Birmingham, which is England's second most populated city. Whereas London proper and all surroundings, it's close to like New York levels. I think the whole population of outer London, as you call it, is around 11 million. Birmingham is around 1 million. And then the other cities after that go down to like 400,000, 300,000, 200,000. Become like little tiny populations comparable to like a little island, like Cyprus, the island that my parents were born in. So, okay, we see an idea of music culture. Like I said, indie in the early to mid 90s. Oasis was formed. Liam and Noel Gallagher. In the good case, they did not make it because they had connections. They had a certain amount of bravado. Noel had a certain amount of proficiency with a guitar and an understanding of music and how to technically perform it, but in a very simple way, but saw the beauty of bands like the Beatles and let's say the Stones, I think, in his estimation. Though I still love the fucking Stones, though. Even though it's before my time. You can listen to like 100 Rolling Stones song in a row, and even if it's not your favorite, never misses. They got kind of a formula, but fucking works on. So music. And then at the same time, there was like a weird part of it that was connected to American culture. So then hip hop sprung up. And then what would be not sort of parasitical to the American culture would be dance music. That was actually really big in England from the late 80s to right up to like sort of the mid 2000s, definitely early 2000s. Dance music. So it would be a DJ with vinyl, taking samples of stuff, perhaps live musicians sometimes, but mostly digital sample taking. And then it was a case of people go to a club to take ecstasy, elevate their level of love and appreciation and hug-giving nature. And that was big enough in England from the early 80s to late 90s, early 2000s, that you can consider that part of British culture. So there we go. We've got the music, the part that tries to ape what America is creating, including rough, aggressive, I'm cool, hip-hop type music, indie. We love the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, particularly Beatles, I think, is a bigger influence. Playing the guitar. Obviously, different countries vary, but a lot of it's based, I believe, even talking out loud without thinking about it premeditatively. I think it's, as a man, how do I get chicks? How do I get pussy? I've never really considered this until I've spoken in a stream of consciousness to you, my beautiful Low Tone podcast listeners. Perhaps culture is, there's a way of breaking it down to, depending on where you live, your population, how your fellow countrymen respond to things. How do I get pussy in this world? Perhaps that's part of it. Perhaps not. Who knows? Might be a crazy thought. But please subscribe. As I said, I'm very close to monetization. And we'll never use national companies, only ever local companies. I've got 3 or 4 record stores and original clothing brands that they're not being dicks about it, but they want a few more videos at the 100 range and then another 30, 40 subscribers. And they're going to give me like 50 quid, 100 quid, do some ads for them. And I will check out their stores and make sure that they are cool, meet them. So far, what do we have? We have the idea of music as forming a basis of what you would use to describe the culture. We have the intelligentsia, the well-educated that come from wealthy families that have a conveyor belt system. Because my father was this, I'm going to seek this path. I think culture in terms of media. Media, we haven't touched that one yet. I think that's a very interesting idea. Again, don't forget to subscribe. But media. So in America, we have bifurcated media of like Fox News, very conservative, very to the right. They take either a candidate or the president at the time, and they shield him. They're very much, when he faces criticism, it's because the left are crazy bastards. They want immigrants to come in and chop the penises off and teach kids about voodoo. They're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs. Though, if you're totally honest, right-wing people, I think, are more funny. I do place a big emphasis on humor. I don't always want to vote for what they're saying, but Donald Trump's 2016 run was hilarious. While he was in debates with Ted Cruz, he called his wife ugly, which is very ungentlemanly and actually kind of like, yeah, you're a fucking asshole, bro. You don't talk about your opponent's wife's looks. You're an asshole. But he said that to him, and then obviously ended up kissing the ass and celebrating. But He had another debate, but I'm pretty sure because he had two Cuban candidates that were running with him at the time in 2016. Marco Rubio, who's currently Secretary of Defense. But I think it was Cruz. He said, "Oh, his father. A lot of people got questions. He killed Kennedy. A lot of people are saying he killed Kennedy. I don't know. A lot of people are saying he literally said that he was part of the JFK assassination. I mean, that motherfucker was crazy, son, and sometimes hilarious. But he seems to have become just too overtly corrupt to support, and just a little bit dark as well with some of his like slanderous stuff he says to journalists. I get it. You're in the arena and it feels like aggressive, like oppositional. Some chick tried to ask him a very reasonable question, and he said, "Quiet, piggy." It's a little thing. It doesn't deserve to like be impeached for it, but it's like kind of dark. Like, yo, you're an 80-year-old, 6'1" dude, literally like bending down to get in the face and put your finger in the face of a chick. Even if she's left-wing, dude, it's just a certain way we conduct ourselves. We don't get uber aggressive to a chick that is not in our face. Bad pool. In England, we would say that's not cricket. So if we've got any listeners from the US, like I said, that seems to be the case whenever I do anything. Not cricket. If you know that game with, if you call it on-the-floor baseball, that's a good way to describe it for you. And as opposed to having a catcher at the back to pick up the ball, we've got these weird little wooden pegs that if the bowler, if you consider that to be the pitcher in baseball, if he hits those wooden pegs, if it goes behind you, you unsuccessfully swing, pluck. There is some things about British culture, even as I talk out loud, they seem antiquated, they seem old-fashioned. They seem not from like the 70s or 80s in American culture when you call that old-fashioned. Seems like from the 1800s. It seems like Oscar Wilde would write a searing essay about the matter. So we're kind of old-fashioned that way. But I don't think that's always terrible. Again, if you have some level of intelligence, I was born pretty poor. Like I said, lived in like a white ghetto. The problem there was households without a father that were either in prison or just left their kids to go on their walkabouts. But white people now we're talking about. And heroin addiction was really rife. It was the last mass-scale riots, like real riots, not for a political purpose, but for a group of people that lived in the area. Just smash it up. And it's so weird. If we've only got like about 4 or 5 people listening right now, but I'm going to tell you something very intimate. I was only like about 4 or 5 when this happened. But if you're willing to listen, no need to report or do screen records at this point. But there was this huge riot. I won't name the place of the little area I lived in. My parents had a small food business, and we lived in the flat above. We ended up moving to like a more middle class, nice 3-bedroom house. Nothing fancy, but again, just good, decent, above just the middle. But the riots began because in this small food business we had, there was a young chap. He was about 19, 20. He used to help with food preparation behind the scenes of this small food business. And he and his friends stole a car. And I've met this guy like 3 or 4 times when I was very little. Had a couple of really weird, deep conversations. It was kind of almost nerdy, but he lived in this real ghetto area, so a lot of his friends were probably ghetto. But he was actually fairly sweet. And when my parents, they could not afford childcare. Up until I was about 6 or 7, we were very poor. And then by about 6, like I said, they did really well for themselves. The real like English story. But he and his friends, they stole a car. They smashed into a lamppost. And the reason they smashed the car is because they were being chased by 3 or 4 different police cars. And by the way that you're supposed to do things like procedurally with the police, they broke their own procedure. Basically, there is a certain limit. You would have to Google the story. If you subscribe and you hit me up, I'll give you more details. But basically, they shouldn't have been so aggressive in the cars to chase him. He and his friends ended up smashing into a lamppost, and they all died. His name was Darren. And after he died, the people that were in the area where I was born and raised, they rioted. The news reports came out. The police were at fault because they didn't follow their own procedural methods. They put an undue amount of pressure into the offending car. They should have put down to one car. They should have waited for a chance to communicate with other police. What's the word? Other police stations, other police units, to get them to either disable the car or slow them down safely. But yeah, they did not do that. And then after they died, the people of the village, obviously high on heroin, poor, have less invested in society, less care about the consequences. They rioted. And the little street, which was like, say, 200 yards up, it was like the main little shopping street, you would say, to go get your groceries. There was like a grocer's, there was a butcher's, there was a bakery. There was a couple other little shops to provide little trinkets. This would have been pre-DVD. Maybe there was a VHS place there. They all rioted, and basically they smashed up every single shop. We're talking bats and bricks, every shop. Many of them were actually burnt down. They would throw like petrol bombs in them. And then the guys out, because they're all rugged, don't give a fuck. Not gangsters, but some of them actually were real gangsters, like selling drugs. But a lot of them just don't give a fuck. Let's get into a fist fight every day of the week. It's fun. The only shop they did not damage, and again, one day, perhaps, dear Low Tone Podcast family, I'll give you the details to prove this. The only shop they did not break, and again, nothing to do with me, I was about like 5 or 6 at this point, that they didn't break was my parents' food business. Because they had a small, when I say food business, a fast food business in England, if we're talking about British culture, fish and chip shops, son. Curry sauce and mushy peas, if you please. Get me. And they didn't smash up a little bit because they respected my father, that he was down to chat. He wasn't a crazy big fighter or anything, but he was rugged because, like I said, he's just an old soul, but more kind and just decent to everybody. Never discriminated against anybody. He loved everybody equally and thought that people that tried to keep other types of group of peoples down or judge them, judgment, I think that's better than caring more about race, religion, or anything else. Judgment. He didn't have that. So about 10, 15 years they've been there. And actually, it would have been a little bit less, about 8 years. So the whole community had gotten to know him, and they respected him because he had a thick accent, and his command of the English language was almost complete, but misused words, but in a charming, adorable way almost. They did not, the only shop that did not get burnt down or smashed down was our small fish and chips business. And I would venture to guess, obviously it's not scientific, 30 to 40% was because they knew my father was just a kind soul. Rugged, not pussy, but nice, but no judgment. Secondly, because that's where the people of the community ate 3 times a day. It was such like a ghetto area that nobody in the household was cooking. Nobody was saying, it was just, it's not even a judgment. It's just life was too chaotic. There was a single mother while the father of the kids in the household was either in prison or had left or had died from heroin overdose, which was like rampant at the time, or had just left the city because he was like, oh shit, I'm not Jamaican, but the idea of having kids is Jamaican me want to leave, son. And this is all white people, by the way. That is part of British culture. If we're going to go to poverty. There's a weird strain of very poor people in England that actually become very intellectual and powerful in political movements and protest. It's kind of awesome. It's like, yeah, fuck yeah, put your fist in the air. And then when it's like crazy, crazy left stuff, you're like, dude, I still like you. You've got a big set of balls and you're fighting the good fight against rich people that are trying to keep us as slaves. But I want to like you, but when you say some crazy ridiculous shit about chopping kids' dicks and balls off, it's like, just can't rock with you as much, man. I apologize. I think I got digressed. I was telling a personal story and went down a bit of a rabbit hole. But yes, the way it links again to another idea of British culture. Let's hope to get back 10 before we're done chat. And again, please jump in the chat to give me your opinions. Subscribe, of course. But even more importantly for Eric now, jump in. Your idea of, I'll eliminate the idea of British, English culture. To you, even if you're not from England. Just instantly, what is the thought you have that constitutes British culture? Please let me know. But yes, okay, so the idea of protest and rebellion. It's such a weird balance, a dichotomy between that and being polite and not wanting trouble. And some of that is based on affluence and wealth. And some of it is regardless of wealth and affluence. As in all the 20 to 25-year-olds that are like, fuck you, pig. I think Israel are monsters. I'm going to hit you with my sign. We're going to pepper spray you. Cover my face and invitada and whatever the fuck else. There's like two sides. So there are similar ideas with America when we're talking about cultures. But I think it's reaction. It's almost to the extreme when we're challenged and when we fear we have not only controls on our speech, but on our future success. Our future success. Our future ability to earn a good enough living without too many restrictions to do so. So the protest gene, the idea of, they cannot afford bread. Let them eat cake. Then the population of that civilization, city, town, country, says, listen, cake is delicious, but you stupid bitch, we're allowed to have at least bread if we just work all our lives to give you money. You got to give us some bread, son. And also, you ever tried Rob Lechon cheese? You ever had feta? Madon, give us the cheese and the bread, and then cake for dessert, and we won't smash up your buildings, yo. No, let them eat bread. Well, fuck you. We're going to start a fire, and you're going to sit on that fire, motherfucker. There is a strain of that through English culture. Still maintains. Tommy Robinson is a dude. His family was like a bunch of hard scrabbling, working in a coal mine, coming out with soot in their face. Everybody coughs. I just finished work. He'd be like, right? They're not giving us bread. It's okay, Tommy. They say we can have cake. Yeah, right. No Rob Lechon. No Philadelphia cheese spread. No thick Irish spirits bottle. Yeah, right. Let's go to protest. Will this just be political, Tommy? No, Thomas, you're getting out of hand. Yeah. Put her on the fire. So, rebellious streak does exist in England. And you get that obviously most prominently from universities. Young people that have left a household of pretty good parents that have given them space, given them opportunities and told them, this is what we roughly follow. That could be religious or could be in terms of your morals. Yo, son, you never put your hands on a woman. If you get into an argument with a crazy chick that you've had sex with and she's angry, you don't want to do it anymore, or not just because you're such a crazy good lover like a porn star, but she thought that your relationship would last. And not being rude, you've just said, I'm sorry, I want to meet somebody else. This is not going to make me happy for 60 years. She gets crazy, tries to punch you, fine, but you don't put your hands on them. You never punch a bitch, basically. That's one of the sets of morals that a dude gets through. And again, guys, this is 50% blind because I'm saying everything very much from a man's point of view. And I say that not as a pussy left dude that everyone is equal, women are as good at dunking basketballs as men are. No, I'm a realist. And in some ways, quite old-fashioned. But I'm also a silly bitty kind of softy in my heart. The right loses me when it goes too hard to actually try to be mean, hurt people. Can be strong, but no need to be unpleasant. I think that's a good word. And let's put that at number 4. British culture. There's an idea that links into the idea of politeness that runs through British culture. I'm talking mostly white people, that their parents were born in England, as opposed to me, that one of my parents was born in England, one of them was born in Cyprus. But they all eventually coalesce around the idea of politeness and not being unpleasant. Some people make the mistake of thinking wanting to be pleasant as opposed to unpleasant means that you're weak. You fear aggression, you fear an altercation. It's not the case from most of the people I've seen who are proponents of it. Most of the people I've met in my life, I'm 42, like I said, 42 years, pretty good test case. I spent it entirely almost in England. Vacations, of course. I lived in Cyprus for 18 months, driving illegally. It was kind of fun for a little bit. Beaches are great. But I miss England, so I came back. But not being unpleasant, it's not a case about the ramifications that come to you. Not about being a pussy that's being scared of getting into a fist fight about something. Because many of the people that I've seen that best exemplify that, they're actually way tougher than me. There are people that, like people would get into street fights and stuff. They don't dance and grab their head and, oh my God, blah, 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 blah. It's like the heartbeat doesn't raise if they face aggression. And the heartbeat doesn't raise once they get into an argument and get proven to be in the right. Their heartbeat doesn't raise and the dick doesn't get hard if they embarrass the person they're talking to. Avoiding being unpleasant is, again, it goes back to the third idea of what constitutes British culture. Manners. I think some of it is deeply within your soul. Some of it is based on religion, I guess. Because in England, if you're going to talk about religion, I know for my sake, I don't go to church much, but Jesus is my favourite. If somebody says they're an atheist and don't believe in God, I'm totally cool with them. I've got a bunch of friends that are that way. Read the Bible. I find it, especially as I get older, fascinating just to read the stories. It's one of the craziest, biggest, epic, sprawling stories of all time. But Jesus is the best dude. People like to take religious texts and try to find holes in it. Jesus seems to be like the only dude that, whatever you say, and I think historically, the case for him really existing as a human being, it's pretty there. I think even atheists agree that existed. But yeah, it's that idea. It's don't be a dick. You don't have to win arguments to look cool. It's not you have to break down a man and make him feel like a pussy, and then, you're a bad man, and then that will help you get pussy. Especially if you're an older dude, married with a kid. It's you avoid unpleasantness. First of all, for your circle, your fam, your clan. Less negativity to them, nothing will come back to them. And then for the person that you actually have decided to be chill with, as opposed to punching in the face. It's his circle, his fam, and everybody observing it on the outside, to the left and the right. It's better for society. Because, number 5, British culture, we tend to beat ourselves up about things. So poor behavior. We've already mentioned media, guys, including music, TV, so forth. But British, again, I should say English as opposed to British. It's, you talk about cancel culture in America. In England, it takes far less egregious acts, speeches, phrases even, to be cast aside from the mainstream. So terrestrial TV. In America, you call it, say, whatever the phrase is before cable, and then cable TV. Sort of like 100 channels that, at this point now, it's mostly older people that watch it. The whole populations of no matter age, now again, will flick through. But people aren't really sticking with the TV as much, with the remote in the hand. I mean, it's crazy. I think I heard a recent study of how many people actually have replaced TV. So no less watch hours on a television screen, but just use YouTube. There's good and bad about it. Obviously, you could be part of the Low Tone Podcast family, where, Jesus, not only has your brain got bigger, but, oh, I'm sorry, Mike, but I think your penis has grown 3 inches. When did that happen? Well, I subscribed to the Low Tone Podcast. For real? When? We're talking about British culture. He made some good points. It was really more of a stream conscious thing. But yeah, my cock got way bigger. Damn, son. What was it called? The Low Tone Podcast. Your cock just got instantly bigger? Yeah. My wife says she was going to leave me before, but subscribe to the channel. No, she has loud orgasms. She put a fist through the wall the other day. Damn, son. What did the kids say? We sent them off to the grandparents. When they're in the house, they have to wear earplugs. Yeah. Low Tone Podcast? Yeah, just subscribe. 3 inches of my cock, son. Monster. So what do we have? British culture-wise. We have music. The idea of indie music coming to the forefront. Oasis. Blur. There's a few other bands that maybe didn't 100% cross over to America, but made a lot of money there. Then, which actually makes it a better example if it didn't 100% take over American culture, because it was quintessentially English. Then, what do you have? Attitudes. The idea of not making a fuss, not being negative, not always having to end every fight with a crazy slur that you may regret if other people walking past the fight would judge you the villain. And then also a moral scaffolding there. Never put your hands on a woman. You don't ever get into a fight with somebody that's much smaller than you. You have to find a way to resist the urge to feel good about yourself and let aggression take over. The idea of fair play, that's a good way to put it. Fair play, that is quintessentially British because we made it English. I'm sure Americans would either be familiar with it or instantly understand what that means. Fair play. It's usually referred to in sports games as opposed to an opposing team cheating within the game. We talk about sports already, cricket and football. We've spoken about the divide in great wealth and education and people that are brought up in poverty. And then the middle class in the middle, there are different attitudes. What else would we say constitutes uniquely English culture? And is it something that we must fight to preserve? Or should we accept more immigration and accept the fact that things change and evolve as new people come in, even if initially it doesn't seem like the most cohesive thing to an environment? but within the next generation, it'll be fine and they'll become more British, English. I think we covered food. Comedy is actually a very interesting thing because I love stand-up comedy. It's the reason I listen to podcasts. In about 2011, 2012, when nobody else around me, none of my friends, none of the women that were such beautiful, sweet angels, they would let me have sex with them, that I was in a relationship with, none of them listened to a podcast in 2012. I mean, they literally did not know what podcasts were. I think at that point, Netflix might have just become a thing. They might have just become a streaming service that was getting popular. But people were still watching television, like cable or terrestrial in England, we call it. But stand-up comedy is where podcasts really excelled. I mean, Joe Rogan started off as a stand-up comedian. And it's not just like a blank thing to say that, oh, he was a stand-up comedian in the past, but he's a podcast. No, he actually built the podcast up for about 3 or 4 years of purely having other stand-up comedians on his podcast. And then he got to interviewing Anthony Bourdain or Neil deGrasse Tyson, which invited a bigger audience. And about 2016, 17, more mainstream people would go on it and be like, oh, it's weird, this podcast culture. But they knew they had to do it. Then by about 2020, by COVID, it's like, yeah, podcasts, YouTube, it's actually view for view, probably bigger than cable TV, terrestrial TV at this point. So stand-up comedians. Well, not particularly in England, but British comedic scene. The biggest event you can get involved in is the Edinburgh Festival. Edinburgh is in Scotland, so British, but not particularly English. So there's, I don't know if it actually would say dominated, but heavily attended, obviously, because it's home turf of Scottish comedians, which there is a big history of Scottish comedians. Billy Connolly. Hey, my name's Billy Connolly. Hey, I'm a comedian. But English comedians, overall, just bigger populations, so there's more of them, have had more success, i.e. Jimmy Carr, Russell Howard, sorry. But the Edinburgh Festival is the way to deliver an hour of comedy, as opposed to America, where you had the JFL, that's Just for Laughs Festival, which is held in Canada, funny enough. So it's very apropos, very analogous to the idea of English stand-up, in Britain, and then American comedy in North America. In Edinburgh, the idea is to come up with a big story, very specific to your life, some trauma that you've suffered, how you overcame, add humour to it. So England, dark humour, but again, slightly more sanitized in terms of your aggression and the language use. America, getting crazy for a while is more rewarded, and then you'll get people that try to either destroy you or say that you're racist or say that you're anti-Semitic or Islamophobic or homophobic, whatever the case may be. But here again, between two Western cultures, I would say the two biggest, but if you say England is not number 2 behind America in the West, like in Europe, that's fair enough. I'm not 100% invested in it. I don't mind. I'm willing to look at statistics. I'm trying to find little parts of culture to define British culture. That's all I'm trying to do, homies. So I say, okay, Edinburgh Festival. Famously, it's always seen as, to America, Nanette say, she was a New Zealander comedian, funny enough, who did a whole thing about how she was sexually abused and stuff. I don't know exactly the details, but it's about trauma. In England, Edinburgh Festival, again, is usually about, I've suffered this, I've come through this, I have found the humor for this. And then it's not just about being left wing and over the top, like such a pussy, whatever. It's you have to have a certain level of intelligence, book smarts, like, which goes back to what I said earlier, the professorial class. The idea of you doing this real, like, raw gangster art form, which is comedy, man. The whole idea of comedy is let's laugh, son. I don't give a fuck what you say about anything. As long as it's not trying to incite a crowd to cause violence or be cruel to people. You can take shots at everything. It's always best served when you take shots at everyone as well. If you mention one group and you say something hilarious but seems kind of mean, then, you know what, hit the opposite group as well. It could be like Jews and Muslims. Make sure you hit both equally. And then we can trust you with anything funny you say afterwards. But yeah, so Edinburgh, more suffering that you've received, experienced, but make it intelligent, like it was written by an English literature student that was studying at Cambridge. America, be raw, gangster, and just watch your P's and Q's and keep your head on a swivel in case they try and cancel you. Debate about being cancelled is an interesting one as well. A lot of people says it doesn't exist now in the age of podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. And a lot of people are like, yo, fuckface, I lost like 2 or 3 million potential quid. I know I think cancelling exists. I don't see 100% answer to that. What else is British culture? Your temperature, the geography, topography of a nation. England, a lot of rain. If you're from America, think Seattle. Maybe not quite as much Seattle, because I think it's more continuous. The summer is warm for a couple of months. Rest of the time it's pretty cold. Our beautiful sights in England are countryside. Lush green grass on hills to overlook other beautiful parts of lush green grass where there are farms, animals moving. In America, it's deserts. I'm sorry, I should get to the chat. There's still hope that you're up in here. I've been avoiding that. I went on a bit of a tangent, but just realised we've had quite a few. I fucking love the people that are jumping on this one. I've had people even not American or British, but it's actually a lot of intelligent people that have given me stuff to think about. And then a lot of people talking shit, being funny, but some of it was genuinely, very funny. Borders and the control. This is from The Dude. I'm sorry, The Dude. I hope you're still in there. If not, somebody tell The Dude 7675, because he messaged right at the beginning of this. And he is The Dude. I think he's wealthy and lives a pretty cool life. The Dude said, border and the control in numbers. Integration, it's a must, but in control numbers and background check, of course. Yeah, dude, that seems pretty reasonable. Can't just say nobody ever come here, but I think it was Reagan and probably somebody more intelligent from earlier on said, if you don't have borders, you don't have country. The Dude, great. I'm so glad you are not racist. Though that word is losing meaning at this point, but just reasonable and not hateful. I hope you have subscribed, my brother. Cool guy, this helps me. Thank you, cool guy. I'm so sorry, I've not checked messages for a long time. I hope you're still in here, man. The Dude again. I don't like politics, it's just reality. Fair point. The Dude again. British people are very respectful and cordial. The Ingles, it's proper peaceful. They love food and beer. They do love beer. Everyone loves food. Cool guy. Can you tell the Bible story, Division of the Land? Yeah, I'm not sure what that is. I have read the Bible. There are some things, if you ask, I might be able to whip up the tip. Assuming that's something to do with Israel and Babylon, Iraq, the many iterations of its name. Sometimes it just includes Iraq, and sometimes 3-4 countries, as we know modern day. Can you tell the Bible story division of land? Nope, I do not know, but I'm sure you do. The dude in historical books tells a story, and it's familiar to me because Portuguese did the same, and I believe at the same point they joined forces. Okay, cool guy. Your voice sounds so good. Oh, thank you, cool guy. So rare to just get a nice compliment from somebody. I try and do it in real life, but on a YouTube chat, bro, you are a gentleman. I always assume people on YouTube chats are just like, gay, the dude. Again, everyone listening, follow Cool Guy 73843, please, because he's a gangster. And follow the dude 7675, please. They've both been very kind and interesting. The dude, but one thing it gets me every time is the British humour, the ironies in the joke. You need a PhD, lol. Yeah. Basically, we say things where it's not a punchline. My brother, you just brought up another thing about British culture. And I spoke about stand-up comedians. You're actually smarter than me. Yes. Our sense of humour it's not quite, I wouldn't just say sarcastic, but it doesn't require a punchline, if that makes sense. So I broke down like the idea of like Edinburgh Festival being the premier place for English and British comedians to go to, whereas in America it's like it used to be JFL, the Just for Laughs stand-up festival in Canada. But yeah, our sense of humor, you're right. There's a certain sense where it's like a little raise of the eyebrows and saying something so dry that you can't tell if it's a joke or not. It's basically like it doesn't require a punchline. There's almost like a tiny bit of arrogance in it, and then a tiny bit of manners, and then a tiny bit of you're above it or something. But it comes from a good place. But the dude, 7675, make sure you subscribe to his channel after you subscribe to the awesome Low Tone podcast you're listening to. But the dude, 7675, subscribe to his channel. He's an absolute gangster. And Cool Guy 73843, subscribe to his channel. A gentleman. Cool Guy said, I hope you have so many subscribers and get so famous. Unlikely, brother. My dream is to get to like sort of 3,000-4,000 subscribers, monetized, and get some advertising. But then I can just have interesting people that at this point wouldn't bother with me because I don't have enough subscribers or enough views on videos, but just enough to so like, damn, this dude just wrote a book on this weird little tribe in the Amazon. And I'd be like, I would fucking love to talk to him, to ask him a few questions about what it's about. Or one of my favorite boxers from the early 2000s that gave me a lot of entertainment. Or one of my favorite strikers from the Premier League that just gave me so much entertainment. I would love to sit down with him. Or one of the rappers from like the late 90s when I was into hip hop. I would love that. So that's my thing, is to make this successful enough that I can treat it like a job almost, but like the greatest job in the world. Make enough cash from advertisers if they're not multinational companies. I can actually meet them, know their product, and make sure I'm not trying to put my name on anything that's bad or help anybody that does anything bad. Just good like products that I would either use or companies that I know the person that runs it and they're nice. That's the goal. But I would not become famous. I would hate to be famous, bro. That's a fucking terrible life. Stoke Tom 777. Greetings, Stoke. I'm so sorry you probably left the chat by now because I've not checked any of the messages. I went on a mad rant on. But thank you for saying hello. Cool guy again. And also remember me from the other stream. Oh, do you know what I think I do, cool guy? I think you subscribed when you heard me another time. Yeah, I knew you were cool. Make sure you will sub to Cool Guy 73843, please. It's just full of positivity and he's a nice guy. His name's Cool Guy. How could you go wrong? So, Tom, discipline is a missing ingredient in society today. Yes, probably, because life used to be harder and it demanded so much more of us. I try to be disciplined. Sometimes I do it with fitness, but I fall out, son. I've got a little tiny pot belly at the minute, whereas I used to be jacked as a motherfucker. But yeah, that's in general. I think that's just one of man's missions, mazes. He must find the exit to the back and forth you go through. Yeah, it's true, Tom. Some dudes really have got it like down, comfortable in the skin. They can seem slightly boring, but they are disciplined as a motherfucker. And I really have the utmost respect for them. I feel like they are better than me. But thank you, Tom. Stoic, sorry. The dude, what man don't have tools and not know how to fix stuff with a hammer and duct tape? You're right. That has been me in the past. I've only recently, I changed my first car tire like only a couple of years ago. And I was in the passenger seat. My girlfriend at the time, blew a tire. And I never attempted it, but she had all the stuff in the back. She had the jack, she had the crank. And I changed the tire. And I gotta be honest, it was one of the most times I've ever been impressed with my pops. With myself, that my pops would be impressed with. Because he could like literally build anything, fix anything. Whereas in some ways, when it came to DIY and fixing stuff, I felt like less than a man. It was a right pussy, son. But now I've actually become quite handy. Most stuff I can do, like basic stuff, obviously. I'm not a professional. Like my pops, like he literally built a little house himself by hand. Not quite there yet. But the dude and cool guy, if you're in the chat, I'm so sorry I haven't gone on the chats for like 40 minutes. I hope you stayed in. Because you've both been lovely. The dude, 7675. Make sure you sub to him. I don't know if he cares about getting subs. And cool guy, 73843. A lot of people that jump in the chats, they use this as their TV and they don't want subscribers. But in case they do have channels where they would like to get more subs, please follow them. But most importantly, follow the Low Tone Podcast. Like I said, I was trying to do the other day. And he said, I subscribed to your podcast, mate. Oh, really? What was the effects of it? Well, my penis got bigger. I ran a mile in about 4.5 minutes. Damn, son, that's pretty cool. Yeah. Also, I can't say what he told me. Might not be legally binding, but subscribing to my podcast probably does wonders for you. I'll tell you more afterwards, after you're subscribed and get my mails. But yes, we're very close to being monetized. We've got a few little small record shops and independent clothing shops. Don't go through Chinese companies. They literally are like artists. It's all in the really cool part of Birmingham, sorry. I sent out some emails and they got back to me. And they literally are like, we need this many more subscribers and this many more views on your lives and the next 3 or 4 videos. And yeah, because I'm not asking for much money. But I've just literally, I picked out the companies that, you are cool. You're just good dudes. And the service you provide is very straight up. Nothing weird or nefarious about it. So please help me get there, son. And then I can make a living off this. My last couple of videos, the last one was like a weird, I did like a freestyle poem because I was reading Rudyard Kipling's If, which is my favorite poem. And one of only a couple I've ever actually read and enjoyed. For the most part, even though I respect people that like poetry. I kind of find it gay, son. I'm not going to sit there and read poetry. Though I'm sure if I did, I would enjoy it. But it's like musicals, you know what I mean? It's like, you just can't get hyped up to go to a musical. Even though I probably would enjoy it if I went to one. But yeah, I did a weird little freestyle. I got taken with a spirit. The sound quality is not amazing, but you'll get it. And I tried to put the text in some of the words when they're not clear. Like I said, I made up on the spot. But it's like a remix of Rudyard Kipling's poem, If. One day you'll be a man, my son. Actually, it's the only words I use like verbatim from his, just to finish it. Because it came in my head. Because I used to freestyle, like MCing, like hip-hop stuff. I'm too old to be rapping now. So it felt more dignified and grown up to do like a poetry freestyle. Sounds pretty gay, but it's not bad. Sound quality not perfect. I tried to edit like a video like behind it. I put my face in a cool little fedora. I look pretty good looking, but my weird little affectations at the time, I didn't realize if I'm looking into my phone as opposed to a camera, I could see my face. I make kind of gay little faces now and again. But I'm not. I usually got big, huge Muslim beard on me, though I'm not Muslim. Obviously, my blood is like nearly released. Christian, son, Christ is King, Jesus the best, but I respect all your churches. Anyway, and then I did a weird little 6-minute documentary on a guy called Bob Guccione Jr. He owned a magazine called Spin Magazine in the 80s. His father was the creator of Penthouse Magazine. I heard a weird interview on a podcast one time, and I thought, damn, this is an interesting motherfucker. Please watch that. It's only like 6 minutes. Again, I don't even have a laptop or anything, so I edit it on my phone. It's not professional looking, but kind of gangster. I put a soundtrack on it. It's enough to be like fun and interesting while you learn something cool. Yes, father created Penthouse Magazine, the Porno Mag. And then he went broke. He didn't leave his son anything. But he created a magazine I'd never heard of before until I started doing research, called Spin Magazine. And one of the things that really got the magazine going was he started an argument with Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses. And Axl Rose actually wrote a song called Get in the Ring, all about fucking up the owner of this magazine. And he actually says the line, "You didn't get as much pussy as your dad." It's in the little 6-minute documentary I did. It's called Have You Ever Heard of Bob Guccione? It's just a little interesting left field thing to check on. And then the first thing on my channel is a freestyle version of Rudyard Kipling's If. There's other various stuff on there. I'll post like UFC or boxing stuff if there's a big fight coming up. But I think I'll let you go. Like I said, I don't even care if you call me gay or whatever. It's most people either jump in the chat or listen to what I do. They're actually pretty cool people. Perhaps the algorithm has blessed me with, if not enough numbers to get monetized straight away. I might get there. I'm pretty close. But cool bunch of people. Even if they talk shit sometimes, at least it's either funny or intelligent. But please watch the videos, like on my channel. And even if they're a bit shitty, like them, but maybe don't comment if you don't really love them. Please subscribe. Please share anything that you think actually is good. Like I said, I'm pretty poor, man. I can't even afford a laptop at this point. So I do everything off my phone. I can't even afford a camera. Once I get the camera and the mic, I might do some out in the field type interview stuff. Our podcast is coming, like the real official one, and a few more creators from YouTube that have bigger followings than me, like sort of in the couple of thousand range. They've seen some of my stuff and they jumped on chats on the live and they hit me up saying, yeah, over the next few weeks, we'll do a podcast with you as guests or live to help you boost your numbers because we think, you can get bigger than you are, which is cool. Let's hope we get there, people. But otherwise, I'm going to leave you alone and let you do something more interesting. Listen to my mad ramblings. We had a great time. British culture. I tried to use it as springboard, and then I went on the mad rant of consciousness. I think I described a lot of it, even things I hadn't considered previously. But as with most things, it lives in the ether. Nothing is 100% defined. But thank you so much, everybody that's listened, that messaged. And like I said, please subscribe. It really does help me. It's free to you, unless you hate me or something, which is also fine. I don't mind. But otherwise, God bless, low finesse, and peace.